Jack Miller floated through the narrow maintenance tunnel of the USS Horizon, his boots magnetized to the metal floor to keep him from drifting in the low gravity. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he tightened the last bolt on the oxygen recycler. The ship hummed around him, a constant reminder that only a few inches of metal separated him from the empty void of space. "Miller, you done yet?" Chief Engineer Susan Boyd's voice crackled through his earpiece. "Just finished," Jack replied, wiping his brow with his sleeve. "The recycler should be back to full capacity now. Good work. Report back to engineering when you're done." Jack packed his tools into his belt and began the journey back. At 32 years old, he was neither the youngest nor the oldest engineer aboard the Horizon, but he took pride in being one of the most reliable. The deep space exploration vessel had been his home for the past 11 months, and he had gotten used to the routine of maintenance checks, system upgrades, and occasional emergencies. Today was supposed to be like any other day. It wasn't not. As Jack reached the main corridor, the ship's alarm system suddenly blared to life. Red lights flashed along the walls. "All hands to alert stations," Captain Samantha Wright's voice announced over the intercom. "This is not a drill. We have detected an unidentified vessel at coordinates 227 MARK4. Jack quickened his pace toward engineering. The USS Horizon was humanity's most advanced deep space exploration ship, currently mapping the outer regions of the Andromeda Galaxy. They were far from any known civilization, human or otherwise. "All section chiefs report to the bridge immediately," the captain continued. "Prepare Recovery Team Alpha for possible rescue operation." When Jack arrived at engineering, the room buzzed with activity. Chief Boyd spotted him and waved him over. "Miller, grab your EVA suit," she ordered. "You're joining the recovery team." Jack blinked in surprise. "Me? But I'm not on the recovery roster. You are now. Peters is sick, and we need someone who knows their way around unknown tech. That's you." Within 20 minutes, Jack found himself in the launch bay with 5 other crew members, all suited up for extravehicular activity. Lieutenant Zoe Kelly, head of security, briefed them as they prepared to board the shuttle. "The unidentified vessel appears damaged and is drifting without power," she explained, her face serious. "Size indicates it's a small craft, possibly a shuttle or escape pod. No response to our communications. Our mission is to assess, secure, and investigate. Any survivors are to be treated with caution, but also with respect. This could be first contact, people." Jack's heart raced as the implication sank in. First contact. After decades of searching the stars, humanity might finally meet another intelligent species. The shuttle departed the horizon smoothly, quickly closing the distance to the mysterious vessel. Through the viewport, Jack got his first good look at it. The craft was unlike anything he had ever seen, sleek and organic in design, more like a living creature than a machine. Its hull shimmered with an iridescent blue-green color that reminded him of abalone shells from Earth's oceans. "That's not human tech," whispered Ryan Cooper, the medical officer sitting next to Jack. "Definitely not," Jack agreed, staring in wonder. The alien vessel had a large breach in its side, exposing its interior to the vacuum of space. Lieutenant Kelly guided their shuttle alongside it, matching its slow spin. "Suits sealed and checked," she commanded. "Miller, Cooper, you're with me. We go in first. The rest of you stand by." Jack checked his oxygen levels and tool belt one last time before following Kelly and Cooper through the airlock. They pushed off gently from their shuttle, floating the short distance to the damaged alien craft. The interior was dimly lit by emergency lights that pulsed with a soft purple glow. Strange symbols covered the walls, and the architecture followed curves rather than straight lines. Kelly signaled them forward, their helmet lights cutting through the darkness. "Life signs detected," Cooper announced, checking his scanner. "One signature, faint but present. Toward what I'm guessing is the control room." They moved carefully through the ship, passing what looked like sleeping quarters and storage areas. Jack marveled at the technology surrounding them. It was both familiar in purpose, yet completely alien in design. They found her in what appeared to be the cockpit. She was humanoid, which surprised Jack, about the size of a human woman, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. But her skin was a pale blue with patterns of darker blue that seemed to shift and change. Instead of hair, she had what looked like delicate tendrils that moved slightly, even in the vacuum. Her face was elegant, with large, almond-shaped eyes closed in unconsciousness. She wore what appeared to be a thin flight suit that had been torn in several places. A dark purple liquid blood, Jack realized, had frozen around a wound on her side. "She's alive, but barely," Cooper said, running his medical scanner over her. "We need to get her back to the horizon immediately." They worked quickly to secure her for transport. Jack helped Cooper place her on a stretcher, while Kelly called the shuttle to position itself closer to the breach dot as they prepared to move her. The alien's eyes suddenly opened. Jack gasped. Her eyes were the most brilliant violet he had ever seen, with no whites or pupils, just swirling pools of purple that somehow conveyed intelligence and fear. She tried to speak, but no sound could travel in the vacuum. Her body began to shake. Violently. "She's going into shock," Cooper said urgently. "And she's freezing. Their species might have different temperature requirements." Without thinking, Jack reached for the emergency thermal blanket in his suit's side pocket. All EVA suits carried one thin, silvery sheet that could retain 99% of body heat. He unfolded it quickly and gently wrapped it around the alien's trembling form, tucking it carefully around her shoulders. The effect was immediate and unexpected. The alien went completely still. Her violet eyes widened, fixed on Jack's face. Through his helmet visor, the tendrils on her head extended slightly, their tips glowing with bioluminescence. "What just happened?" Kelly asked, her hand moving instinctively toward her sidearm. "I don't know," Jack replied. "I just gave her a blanket because she was cold." The alien slowly raised a 4-fingered hand and placed it against Jack's helmet, right where his cheek would be. Her expression was one of such profound shock and wonder that Jack felt frozen in place, unable to look away from those swirling violet eyes. "We need to move her now," Cooper insisted, breaking the moment dot as they carried her to the shuttle. The alien never took her eyes off Jack. She clutched the thermal blanket tightly around herself with one hand while the other kept reaching toward him, as if trying to confirm he was real. Back aboard the Horizon, the medical team took over, rushing the alien to the quarantine section of the medical bay. Jack stood in the decontamination chamber, his mind replaying that moment over and over, the look in her eyes when he had given her the blanket. It wasn't just gratitude he had seen there. It was something deeper, something like reverence or awe. "Good job out there, Miller," Chief Boyd said as he finally returned to engineering hours later. "Word is our visitor is stabilizing. Captain wants a full report from everyone involved in the recovery." Jack nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had happened. Something that went beyond a simple rescue mission. He had no way of knowing that his instinctive act of kindness, giving a shivering stranger a blanket, had just changed the course of human history forever. 3 days passed since the rescue of the alien visitor. The USS Horizon buzzed with excitement. Every crew member wanted to catch a glimpse of their blue-skinned guest, but Captain Wright had restricted access to the medical bay to essential personnel only. Jack Miller found himself unable to focus on his regular duties. The image of those swirling violet eyes staring at him haunted his thoughts. He had filed his report along with the others who had participated in the rescue mission. But something about the alien's reaction to his simple gesture kept pulling at him. On the fourth day, Dr. Olivia Garcia, the ship's chief xenobiologist, called Jack to the medical bay. "She's asking for you," Dr. Garcia said as Jack entered the sterile antechamber. "At least, we think she is. The translation system is still learning her language, but she keeps making a gesture that looks like someone wrapping a blanket around shoulders." Lieutenant Kelly thought it might be referring to you. Jack's heart beat faster. "How is she doing?" "Physically, she's recovering well. Her biology is surprisingly similar to ours in many ways, though her blood carries copper instead of iron, which explains the purple color. We're calling her species Kalari for now, based on sounds she uses when referring to her people." Dr. Garcia paused. "She hasn't let go of that thermal blanket you gave her." "Not once." Jack raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Really? It's just a standard issue emergency blanket," Dr. Garcia shrugged. "To you, maybe? Ready to meet her properly?" Jack nodded, and Dr. Garcia led him through a series of doors into a specially prepared room. The lighting was dimmer than standard ship illumination, and the temperature was set slightly cooler. In the center sat the alien, perched on the edge of a medical bed. She looked much better than when they had found her. Her blue skin had a healthy glow to it, and the tendrils on her head moved gently, like seaweed swaying in a current. She wore a simple medical gown provided by the ship, but wrapped tightly around her shoulders was the silver thermal blanket, exactly as Jack had placed it days ago. When she saw Jack enter, she immediately stood up. The tendrils on her head extended and began to pulse with soft blue light. Her violet eyes widened, and she took a step toward him. "Hello," Jack said awkwardly, raising a hand in greeting. The alien tilted her head, studying him intensely. Then, to Jack's surprise, she spoke. "Jack Miller," she said, the words heavily accented but clear. "You know my name?" He asked, startled. Dr. Garcia explained. "We've been teaching her basic English while the AI works on translation. She's learning remarkably fast." The alien touched the thermal blanket wrapped around her shoulders, then pointed at Jack. "You, Eve." Her voice was musical, with tones that seemed to layer on top of each other. Jack nodded. "Yes, I gave you the blanket. You were cold." The alien's expression changed to something Jack couldn't read. She clutched the blanket tighter and spoke a stream of words in her own language. Mechanical voice from the translation system mounted on the wall attempted to interpret sacred bond, unexpected. The gods have connection word unclear. Fate decision made. Jack looked at Dr. Garcia in confusion. What does that mean? Before she could answer, the alien stepped closer to Jack and carefully took his hand. Her skin felt cool and smooth, like polished stone. With her other hand, she touched the blanket, then placed Jack's hand on it too. "Lyra," she said, pointing to herself. "I am Lyra." "Nice to meet you, Lyra," Jack replied, feeling oddly moved by the simple introduction. Over the next week, Jack visited Lyra every day. As the translation system improved, communication became easier. Jack learned that Lyra had been on a solo scientific mission when her ship was damaged by a micrometeor shower. She came from a planet she called Kalara, the third world of the star system, about 40 light years from Earth. Lyra was fascinated by human technology, considering it both charmingly primitive and surprisingly elegant in its solutions. In turn, Jack was amazed by the bits of information she shared about her people's advanced bioengineering and quantum communication systems. Yet throughout all their conversations, one thing remained constant. Lyra kept the thermal blanket with her at all times. When Jack asked about it, she would simply smile and say the translation system wasn't yet advanced enough to explain. 2 weeks after her rescue, Captain Wright called a meeting with the senior staff. Jack was surprised to be included. "Our guest has requested to address the ship's leadership," the captain explained. "Dr. Garcia believes the translation system is now sophisticated enough for meaningful diplomatic exchange. Miller," she specifically, "asked for your presence." They gathered in the conference room. Lyra entered wearing a new outfit the fabrication team had created for her, based on her specifications, of flowing garment that accommodated the movement of her tendrils. The silver thermal blanket had been fashioned into a sash that crossed her chest and wrapped around her waist. "Thank you for your hospitality," Lyra began, her voice now clearly translated by the AI system. "I believe it is time I explain the significance of what has occurred between our peoples." She turned to look directly at Jack. "In my culture, the offering of a personal covering item from one individual to another is our most sacred ritual. It is performed only 3 times in a Kalari's life: at birth, at bonding with a life partner, and at death. By offering me your blanket, Jack Miller performed an act that in my culture represents the highest possible honor one can bestow." The room fell silent. Jack felt his face grow warm as everyone turned to look at him. "But I didn't know," he said. "I just thought you were cold." Lyra's tendrils glowed brightly. "That is precisely what makes this moment so profound. In our history, there is a sacred text that prophesies. When the unknowing one performs the ritual of covering, the stars will bridge." Captain Wright leaned forward. "Are you saying Jack accidentally fulfilled some kind of prophecy?" "Not accidentally," Lyra corrected. "In our belief, true meaning comes from action without expectation of return. Jack gave without knowing the significance, which makes the giving pure." She touched the blanket sash reverently. "My people have encountered many species across the stars, but never have we experienced the ritual performed with such natural compassion by an outsider." She looked at Jack again, her violet eyes intense. "I was sent to this region to determine if the species we detected, you humans, might be compatible with the Kalari Alliance, a coalition of 27 civilizations that share resources and knowledge. My damaged ship was partly a test to see how you would respond to a stranger in need." Jack felt his mouth go dry. "A test?" Lyra nodded. "Many species fail. They ignore distress signals, or they capture damaged vessels to study and exploit the technology. Some rescue survivors only to imprison them." Her tendrils curled with emotion. "You not only rescued me, but you showed instinctive compassion. That blanket," she touched it again, "means humanity has not just passed our test. You have exceeded all expectations." Captain Wright stood up slowly. "Are you saying—" "Yes," Lyra said. "Because of Jack Miller's simple act of kindness, my people are prepared to invite humanity to join the Kalari Alliance. And because the sacred covering ritual was performed, Earth would enter not as a junior member, but as a full partner." Jack sat perfectly still, completely speechless. His small act of human decency, giving a blanket to someone who was cold, had just changed humanity's destiny forever. News of the Kalari Alliance offer spread through the USS Horizon like wildfire. Within hours, every crew member knew that Jack Miller's simple act of kindness had opened the door to humanity's greatest opportunity for advancement. The ship buzzed with excitement, speculation, and a fair amount of disbelief. Captain Wright immediately sent an encrypted message to Earth Command, explaining the situation. The response came faster than anyone expected. Admiral Ben Foster himself would be arriving via the military's experimental quantum jump ship in just 3 days to handle the diplomatic proceedings. Jack found himself suddenly famous aboard the Horizon. Crew members who had barely noticed him before now stopped him in corridors to shake his hand or pat him on the back. Some even asked him to sign things, as if he were some kind of celebrity rather than an ordinary engineer who had done what any decent person would do. "I don't understand why everyone's making such a big deal about this," Jack said to Dr. Garcia as they shared lunch in the mess hall. "I just gave her a blanket. Anyone would have done the same." Dr. Garcia smiled. "That's exactly why it matters. Jack, you didn't think about it. You just saw someone in need and helped. Apparently, that's rarer in the galaxy than we thought." Jack pushed his food around his plate. "So what happens now?" "I'm just an engineer. I don't know anything about diplomacy or interstellar alliances. According to Lyra, you're now something called a blanket bonded. In their culture, it makes you a kind of honorary family member to her, which apparently carries significant weight in their political system." Dr. Garcia leaned forward. "Captain wants you to join the diplomatic team that will meet with Admiral Foster." Jack nearly choked on his drink. "Me? But No arguments," came Captain Wright's voice as she approached their table. "You're central to this whole situation. Miller, the Kalari see you as the embodiment of humanity's compassion. We need you there." The next few days were a blur of preparation. Jack received crash courses in diplomatic protocol from the ship's political officer. Lyra spent hours explaining Kalari customs and alliance structures to the senior staff. The more Jack learned about the Kalari alliance, the more he understood the magnitude of what was happening. The alliance included 27 different civilizations spread across hundreds of worlds. Some had been spacefaring for thousands of years. They shared technologies, resources, and knowledge while respecting each species' autonomy and cultural identity. Earth would gain access to medical advances that could eliminate disease, energy solutions that would end pollution, and faster-than-light travel technologies that would open the entire galaxy to human exploration. Why would they share all this with us? Jack asked Lyra during one of their private conversations. They sat in the ship's observation lounge, looking out at the stars. "We have nothing comparable to offer them." Lyra's tendrils swayed gently, glowing with a soft blue light that Jack had come to recognize as contentment. She still wore the thermal blanket, now fashioned into an elegant wrap that complemented her Kalari clothing. "You're wrong," she said. "Simply, what your people consider ordinary, your capacity for empathy, your creative problem-solving, your adaptability, these qualities are precious and rare. Many technologically advanced species lose these traits as they evolve. They become cold, calculating, efficient ... but not kind." She touched the blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "This simple covering represents what the Alliance needs most: instinctive compassion. The ability to care about others different from yourself, without calculation of benefit." Admiral Foster arrived 3 days later aboard the USS Quantum Leap, the first human vessel capable of folding space for near-instantaneous travel between star systems. It was still experimental and could only make short jumps, but it had cut a journey that would normally take months down to just days. The Admiral was a tall, stern-looking man with gray hair and keen eyes that seemed to notice everything. He brought with him a team of Earth's top diplomats, scientists, and military strategists. Jack felt completely out of place in their first meeting. "So you're the blanket guy?" Admiral Foster said when Jack was introduced, his serious expression softening slightly. "Didn't expect first contact to hinge on emergency thermal gear, but here we are." The diplomatic discussions lasted for days. Jack attended most of them, sitting quietly beside Lyra, who insisted on his presence. He noticed how the Earth representatives kept glancing at him whenever negotiations grew tense, as if reminding themselves that this ordinary engineer had somehow passed a test that had apparently stumped many more advanced civilizations. Fifth day, Admiral Foster called Jack to a private meeting in his temporary office aboard the Horizon. "I need your honest assessment, Miller," the Admiral said without preamble. "Is this alliance everything they claim it is? Or are we being manipulated somehow?" Jack considered the question carefully. Sir, I'm just an engineer. I fix things. But I've spent a lot of time with Lyra, and I believe she's sincere. The Kalari could have destroyed or conquered us easily if that was their goal. Instead, they're offering partnership. The Admiral nodded slowly. That's my read, too. But there's something else bothering me. This blanket ritual seems to have elevated you to an important position in their eyes. They're insisting you play a central role in the formal alliance ceremony. He leaned forward. Are you prepared for that responsibility? Jack swallowed hard. No, sir, I'm not. But I don't think I have a choice. Whatever this blanket thing means to them, it matters a lot. And if it helps Earth join this alliance and gain all these benefits, then I'll do whatever's needed. Admiral. Foster studied him for a long moment, then smiled slightly. Maybe you're exactly the right person for this after all. The formal ceremony was scheduled to take place on the Horizon's main deck, with representatives from both Earth and the Kalari Alliance in attendance. A Kalari diplomatic vessel had arrived, carrying high-ranking officials eager to meet the human who had performed their sacred ritual. The night before the ceremony, Jack couldn't sleep. He wandered to the observation deck and found Lyra already there, looking out at the stars. Nervous about tomorrow? She asked as he joined her. Terrified, Jack admitted. I'm no diplomat or hero. I'm just a guy who fixes things. Lyra's tendrils glowed with a color Jack hadn't seen before, a deep, rich gold. Perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs most right now, Jack Miller. Someone who sees broken things and wants to fix them, not because it benefits him, but because it's the right thing to do. She turned to face him fully. Tomorrow, our peoples begin a journey together that will change both our civilizations forever. And it all began because when you saw someone cold and afraid, you gave them a blanket without hesitation. She touched the blanket around her shoulders. Never doubt the power of simple kindness, Jack. It can bridge worlds. As the stars shone above them, Jack finally began to understand. Sometimes the most ordinary actions, helping someone in need, could have extraordinary consequences. Tomorrow, he would help forge an alliance between Earth and the stars, all because of a simple blanket and an act of human compassion that had left an alien girl completely speechless. The day of the alliance ceremony arrived. Jack stood in his quarters, staring at his reflection in the mirror. Instead of his usual engineer's uniform, he wore a formal outfit specially designed for the occasion. It was navy blue with silver, trim that matched the thermal blanket that had started everything. Captain Wright had insisted that the connection be visually clear to everyone. A chime at his door broke his thoughts. Come in, Jack called. Dr. Garcia entered, carrying a small case. How are you holding up? Jack gave a nervous laugh. I fix machines, Olivia. I don't sign treaties with alien civilizations. And yet, here we are. She opened the case and revealed a small silver pin in the shape of the USS Horizon. The captain wanted you to have this. Every crew member is wearing one today. We're all part of this historic moment, but you're the one who made it possible. Jack accepted the pin and attached it to his collar. I still don't understand why they're making such a big deal about a blanket. Dr. Garcia smiled patiently. It's not about the blanket, Jack. It's about what it represents. The Kalari and their alliance have been searching the galaxy for species capable of instinctive compassion. Think about it from their perspective. They're technologically advanced, but they've watched many civilizations destroy themselves or others because they developed weapons before they developed wisdom. She squeezed his shoulder reassuringly. You showed them that humans can be kind without calculation. That matters more than you realize. The ceremony was held in the Horizon's largest space, the main hangar bay, cleared of shuttles and equipment, and transformed into a formal meeting hall. One side of the vast room had been opened to space, protected only by the ship's transparent force field. Against the backdrop of stars and distant galaxies, two worlds would join in alliance. The hangar was packed with people. The entire crew of the Horizon stood in formation on one side. Admiral Foster and his diplomatic team occupied the center. On the other side stood the Kalari Delegation 12 blue-skinned figures with glowing tendrils, all wearing variations of the formal wrap that incorporated something similar to Jack's thermal blanket. Lyra stood at the front of her people. When she spotted Jack entering, her tendrils brightened noticeably. She wore an elaborate version of the blanket wrap, with intricate patterns woven into the material. Jack realized it must be a recreation of the original emergency blanket, but crafted with much finer materials. Captain Wright gestured Jack forward to stand beside her and Admiral Foster. The room fell silent. Today marks a historic moment for humanity, the Admiral began. Our first formal alliance with another spacefaring civilization. What began as a chance encounter and a simple act of kindness has led us to this momentous occasion. He nodded to Lyra, who stepped forward. Her voice was clear and musical as the translation system conveyed her words. The Kalari Alliance welcomes Earth with open hearts. For many cycles, we have searched for civilizations that value compassion as highly as technology. In Jack Miller's gesture, we found evidence that humanity possesses the quality our alliance values most. She extended her hand, and one of the Kalari delegates brought forward a small crystal sphere that glowed with swirling blue light. This is the heart of alliance, Lyra explained. It contains the combined knowledge of all 27 civilizations in our coalition. Medical advances that will eliminate disease. Energy technologies that will heal your planet's environment. Faster than light. Travel designs that will allow you to explore the galaxy. All freely given, with only one condition. The room was so quiet Jack could hear the soft hum of the ship's systems. That condition, Lyra continued, is that Earth must pledge to share its greatest resource with the galaxy, the human capacity, for empathy and creative problem-solving. Your species approaches challenges differently than any we have encountered. Where others see only cold equations, you see opportunities for connection. Admiral Foster stepped forward. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we accept this alliance and its condition. We pledge to share our perspective, our creativity, and our compassion with our new galactic partners. Lyra smiled and held out the glowing sphere. According to the protocol they had practiced, both the Admiral and Jack were to accept it together. As Jack reached for the sphere alongside Admiral Foster, he felt a sudden wave of doubt. He was just an engineer. What right did he have to represent humanity in such an important moment? His hand trembled slightly. Lyra noticed his hesitation. Her violet eyes met his, and she spoke softly. Her words meant for him alone. The greatest journeys begin with the smallest steps, Jack Miller. Trust that your heart guided you truly when you offered warmth to a stranger among the stars. Jack took a deep breath and placed his hand on the sphere alongside the Admiral's. The crystal responded immediately, its blue glow intensifying and spreading outward in rippling waves of light that washed over everyone in the room. Jack gasped as a flood of images and feelings rushed through his mind. He saw strange worlds with multiple suns, underwater cities teeming with life, floating settlements among the clouds of gas giants. He felt the wonder of discoveries yet to be made, the joy of healing ancient wounds, the peace of worlds working together instead of against each other. When the light faded, Jack blinked in amazement. Around him, others were having similar reactions. Some were weeping openly, others laughing in delight. "What was that?" he whispered to Lyra. "The heart shows each person a glimpse of the Alliance's potential future," she explained. "What did you see?" "Everything," Jack said softly. "I saw everything we could become together." The formal part of the ceremony concluded with the signing of documents by Admiral Foster and the Kalari High Representative. After that, the gathering transitioned into a celebration. Crew members mingled with the Kalari delegates, asking questions and sharing stories. Jack found himself the center of attention. Everyone wanted to speak with the human who had performed the sacred blanket ritual. He answered questions politely, but felt overwhelmed by all the attention. Eventually, he managed to slip away to a quiet corner of the hangar. He stood before the force field, looking out at the stars, trying to process everything that had happened. His simple act of kindness had changed not just his life, but the future of his entire species. "Enjoying the view?" Lyra asked, joining him. "It looks different now," Jack admitted. "Before, when I looked at the stars, I saw distance and isolation. Now I see connection and possibility." Lyra's tendrils glowed with that deep gold color he had seen the night before. "That is the greatest gift of the Alliance. It reminds us that we are never truly alone in the universe." She touched the blanket wrap she wore. "My people have a saying, the smallest kindness can bridge the greatest void. You proved that truth, Jack Miller." Jack smiled, finally beginning to accept his unexpected role in history. Out among the stars, humanity had found its place now. Through conquest or technological superiority, but through the simple, powerful act of offering warmth to someone in need. 6 months passed since the Alliance ceremony aboard the USS Horizon. In that time, Jack Miller's life had changed completely. After returning to Earth with Admiral Foster and the diplomatic team, he found himself thrust into the role of humanity's unofficial ambassador to the Kalari Alliance. Earth had been transformed by the knowledge contained in the heart of Alliance. The medical advances alone had revolutionized healthcare across the planet. Diseases that once claimed millions of lives annually were now easily treatable. Clean energy technologies had begun to heal the environment. The first human-built faster-than-light ship was already under construction. On a crisp autumn morning, Jack stood on the balcony of his new apartment in Washington, D.C., looking out over the city. The skyline was changing, with new structures incorporating Kalari design elements rising alongside traditional human architecture. In the distance, he could see the gleaming silver dome of the newly constructed Galactic Embassy. Today was the day the Alliance would be formally announced to the world. Until now, only world leaders and key scientists had known the full truth. The public had been told that a diplomatic relationship was being established with a newly discovered alien civilization, but the extent of the Alliance and its benefits had been kept quiet until Earth was ready. Jack's communication device chimed. It was a message from Dr. Garcia, who had been appointed head of the new Xenobiology Institute. "Are you ready for today?" her message read. "The President's office sent a car for you. It should arrive in 20 minutes. Jack sent a quick acknowledgement and went to get dressed. In his closet hung the special formal outfit he would wear. Today a refined version of what he had worn during the Alliance ceremony, still featuring the silver trim that matched Lyra's blanket wrap. Lyra had returned to her homeworld shortly after the ceremony to report on the successful alliance. She had promised to return for today's global announcement. Jack found himself looking forward to seeing her again. They had maintained contact through the Kalari communication system that had been established on Earth, but it wasn't the same as talking in person. The car arrived precisely on time. As Jack was driven to the White House, he watched the people on the streets going about their daily lives, unaware that by the end of the day, their understanding of humanity's place in the universe would be forever changed. The grand ceremony was scheduled to take place on the White House lawn. A stage had been set up, with seating for world leaders and dignitaries. Behind the stage stood something massive, covered by an enormous cloth. Jack knew what was beneath it, a gift from the Kalari Alliance to the people of Earth. Jack was led to a waiting area inside the White House, where Admiral Foster greeted him with a firm handshake. "Big day, Miller," the Admiral said. "How are you holding up?" Jack smiled. "Still feels surreal, sir. 6 months ago, I was just fixing recyclers on the horizon. And now you're helping to introduce humanity to the galactic community." The Admiral chuckled. "All because you gave a blanket to someone who was cold." A staff member approached them. "They're ready for you outside, sir. The Colari delegation has arrived." Jack followed Admiral Foster through the White House and out, onto the stage. The lawn was packed with people, journalists, diplomats, and selected citizens from around the world. Television cameras broadcast the event globally. And there, standing beside the President of the United States, was Lyra. She looked different today. Her blue skin seemed to shine more vibrantly, and the tendrils on her head were adorned with small crystalline ornaments that caught the sunlight. She still wore a version of the blanket wrap, though this one was more elaborate than ever, with intricate patterns that seemed to move and shift in the light. When she saw Jack, her tendrils brightened, and she smiled. The President stepped to the microphone. "Citizens of Earth, today marks the beginning of a new chapter in human history. 6 months ago, a chance encounter between the USS Horizon and a Colari vessel led to something extraordinary. Today, I am honored to announce that Earth has been invited to join the Colari Alliance, a coalition of 27 advanced civilizations spanning our galaxy." A murmur ran through the crowd. The President continued, explaining the benefits. The Alliance would bring medical advances, environmental restoration, faster-than-light travel, and cultural exchange. And all of this, the President said, began with a simple act of human kindness. Engineer Jack Miller of the USS Horizon, seeing an injured alien shivering with cold, gave her his emergency thermal blanket. That small gesture turned out to have profound meaning in Colari culture and opened the door to this historic alliance. Jack felt his face grow warm as the crowd applauded. The President gestured for him to step forward. "Mr. Miller, would you like to say a few words?" Jack hadn't prepared a speech. He looked out at the sea of faces, then at Lyra, who nodded encouragingly. He stepped to the microphone. "I'm just an engineer," he began simply. "I fix things when they break. 6 months ago, I saw someone who needed help and did what anyone would do. I tried to make things better. I had no idea that giving a blanket to someone who was cold would lead to all of this." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "What I've learned from this experience is that the galaxy values something we humans often take for granted, our capacity for compassion. The Colari Alliance doesn't need our technology. They're far more advanced than we are. What they want is our perspective, our creativity, and our empathy." Jack looked at Lyra as he continued. "The Alliance is offering us incredible gifts of knowledge and technology. But perhaps the greatest gift is the reminder that the qualities we sometimes think of as ordinary kindness, compassion, the instinct to help others, are actually extraordinary and worth protecting." The crowd applauded again. Then Lyra stepped forward to stand beside Jack. She spoke in perfect English, having mastered the language over the past months. "The Colari Alliance presents this gift to the people of Earth," she said, gesturing to the covered object behind the stage. "A symbol of our shared future among the stars." At her signal, the cloth was pulled away, revealing a massive sculpture. It showed 2 hands, 1 human, 1 Colari passing a blanket between them. The sculpture was made of a material that seemed to glow from within, shifting through subtle colors that created the illusion of movement. "This monument will stand as a reminder that the greatest journeys often begin with the smallest acts of kindness," Lyra said. "When Jack Miller gave me that blanket, I was completely speechless. Not just because of its cultural significance to my people, but because in that moment, I knew we had found what we had been searching for, across the stars, a species that would act with instinctive compassion toward a stranger. She turned to face Jack directly. "On behalf of the 27 worlds of the Kalari Alliance, I thank you, Jack Miller, for showing us that humanity was ready to join our galactic family." As the world watched, Lyra removed a small piece of the original thermal blanket now, preserved in a crystal case, from her wrap and presented it to Jack. "May this remind us all that even in the vastness of space, no one should ever be left cold and alone." Jack accepted the gift, his eyes meeting Lyra's violet gaze. In that moment, he finally understood completely. His simple act of human kindness had bridged worlds and opened the stars to humanity. As Earth took its first steps into a larger universe, Jack Miller, the engineer who simply liked to fix things, had helped fix humanity's isolation among the stars, all with a simple emergency blanket and a gesture of compassion that had left an alien girl completely speechless.